Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her rainbow baby isn't special? I, 27 female, have a set of twins, Ben and Betty. They just turned 6. My sister, 32 female, has Connor, who is 4. My sister and her husband lost their first baby due to SIDS. It was devastating for the whole family, and I was behind my sister 100% of the way. I couldn't imagine what it was like. Anyway, when she found out she was pregnant with Connor, we were all excited. The pregnancy went well and Connor got a good bill of health. Everything was fine. I love my sister and I love my nephew, but my sister is convinced that because he's her rainbow baby, that means he can do whatever he wants. Connor is incredibly spoiled and a brat. He throws fits to get his way, hits, kicks, cries, whatever it takes. My sister and her husband give him no discipline. He's their rainbow baby, so that is their excuse for his bad behavior. Their lives are to serve whatever Connor wants. Every year, my family takes a vacation. Me, my husband, kids, sister, and her husband, and our parents. We all decided on Yellowstone. Last minute, my sister tried to get us to change to Disney World, and we refused because we felt our kids were still too young for it. They ended coming to Yellowstone, but complained the whole time that Connor wasn't having fun. That is just a brief example. So now on to the reason for the post. My twins just turned 6, and we had a small party for them. We invited friends from their daycare and some family. Everyone was having a good time but Connor. He wanted cake, didn't like the games, wanted to watch TV, wanted ice cream now, didn't want other kids to touch him, etc. Basically, the whole party Connor threw a tantrum. The final straw came at present time. My husband went to get the gifts out the living room only to find Connor had ripped nearly all of them open. My sister made excuses, saying he just excited and wanted to play with my kids' new toys. I lost it. I told her that Connor isn't special, that he's a brat and has been ruining the party since he got there. My sister immediately went on the his/her rainbow baby. I didn't mean it, and maybe I should have put the presents where he couldn't get them. They were in the living room. The party was outside. No one was inside. I lost my temper. I know I did. But this was my kid's party though. I said some nasty things to her. Told her that Connor isn't a baby anymore. He's not special. And she's raising a self-centered brat who will grow up to be a self-centered adult. She left the party. Later, my parents called. They said they understood my frustrations and everything about the situation, then said they still felt like I should apologize to my sister. Why? Because I have 2 healthy kids. Well, she lost one, and she's still having to deal with it. I told them no. My sister should apologize for how her son acted at the party. My husband and the guests who were at the party are on my side. My sister hasn't really spoken to me in a few days. Just posted passive-aggressive things on social media, which I just blocked her. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. Just to clear up some things in the comments. A lot of people have suggested my sister should have went to therapy, and she did. My sister and I got pregnant around the same time, so we were excited to raise our kids together. However, her child died a few weeks after being born while I had twins. We did attend therapy together because I felt guilt for having 2 kids while her 1 kid died. I have been nothing but 100% supportive of her. My family and I have tried talking to her and husband in the past about Connor's behavior, because this didn't happen overnight. This has been happening since he could walk. They ignore us and throw their dead baby in our face when we bring up something about Connor. The party just brought everything to a head for me and I lost my temper. I accept that. We have decided that we aren't going to talk to my sister or husband till things cool down some more and she's willing to listen to what we have to say. None of us are downplaying the fact she lost a child. I know Connor is special to her, but the rest of the world isn't going to see it that way. Thanks to those who ask if my kids are okay. They are okay, and the party went on after my sister left. My kids got to open some gifts that Connor didn't get to. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole at all. Is he still going to be the rainbow baby in high school? I'm sure when he commits his first crime, the judge will be very understanding that the rainbow baby needs cuddles and not confinement. Can you imagine him trying to use the excuse, "but I am a rainbow baby," for everything in school? He can't be charged with a DUI. He's a rainbow baby. He can't be expelled for fighting. He's a rainbow baby. He can't get divorced. He's a rainbow baby. He had to get into this college. He's a rainbow baby. Laughing my butt off. What if he finds another rainbow baby? What are the rules there? Not day-hall. Connor knows what he's doing. He knows his mom and dad let him get away with anything because he's special. And I would bet every day they tell him that he is special. There is nothing wrong with loving your child, but clearly your sister and husband could use some family therapy to deal with the loss of their first child. They haven't gotten over it. Connor is basically the replacement for their dead baby, and that is going to mess him up in life. You admitted you lost your temper and said some nasty things. In this case, you had every right to do so. Your sister was letting Connor dictate the party. Who opens someone's presents? She likely took him inside, let him open them, and thought you wouldn't say anything. You're not day-hall. Connor knows what he's doing. Hate to single this part out because I agree with the rest of the post, but the kid is 4. He will know what he's doing if this parenting continues, but no, he does not know what he's doing. A 4-year-old with no discipline or boundaries or consequences is more or less an untrained puppy. At 4, you still don't even have an understanding that other people exist outside of your world. Look up theory of mind, which you don't really get until around 5. Generally, your post is still valid, but it kind of places too much blame on a 4-year-old who is the, albeit horrible, byproduct of an awful parenting. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling this mom the truth about why her son wasn't invited to a sleepover party? My son just turned 10, and for his birthday wanted to do a superhero slumber party. We did something similar the last 2 years, not for his 9th birthday for obvious reasons, and they all had a blast. The party started around 3. We did pizza, movies, popcorn, and designed superhero masks. My son was friends with a boy named James from his class. Came to the last 2 sleepover parties, and while well behaved, it was his parents who I felt were the problem. When we send out the invites, we tell the parents when the party is and what time to pick the kids up the next day. For the last 2 parties, James was always the last one to be picked up. For his 8th birthday, we specifically stated that all kiddos should be picked up by 11 a.m. We had plans to go out to my in-laws for his birthday party, which was on his actual birthday. We had 5 boys, including our son, at the party, and 3 of them were picked up by 11 a.m. At 11:30, I texted James's mom and asked if she was coming to get him. She said she was on her way. I assumed she ran an errand and was just running behind. No big deal. By 12:30, she hadn't shown up. I texted her again and I reminded her that we had somewhere to be and she needed to get here as soon as possible. She responded that she was eating lunch and would be there soon. By 2 p.m., I texted her again and let her know that she needs to pick up her son ASAP, that we were getting ready to leave in an hour, and her son was not invited to come with us. I had assumed that would prompt her to come get him. By 4 p.m., my husband left with our kids to my in-laws, and I called James's mother. I left her a voicemail and told her that if she was not at my house in 30 minutes to pick up her son, I was calling the police to inform them that he was an abandoned child. She showed up within 15 minutes to get him. She made a half-baked apology about how she was busy with errands and running her other children to their activities. Today, I received a text message from her about why James was not invited to the sleepover party. Apparently, one of the other moms was talking about how much fun the kids had at the party, and she wanted to know why her son was not invited. So I told her the truth, that her son was not invited because I was not sure if she could come get him in a timely manner and without disrupting our plans for the rest of the day. I explained that anytime our son is at my house, she's always late to pick him up and I was tired of catering to her schedule. She called me an uppity witch and has since blocked me on social media and her phone. Am I the a-hole for telling her why her son was not invited? Post edit. Because this has been asked a lot, we do not suspect any kind of mistreatment in the home. I am a nurse, so I would be obligated to report this if I expected that this was happening. James's mom has 4 children. Her other son is in scouts with my son. They are always the last to be dropped off / picked up because of her other kids' activities. Her husband does drop off and pick up the kids, and he is on time. Our parties and scout meetings just happen to fall on days and times when he is not available. We are not the only parents who have discussed this with her. Multiple parents from the group have said that the same issue with her not coming to pick him or her other kids up on time. She's just a chronically late person, and I am not really sure what to do to help out with this. Not day-hole. This mom sucks, to put it mildly. And I feel sorry for her kid. She was using you for free daycare and doesn't care enough about her kid. It's weird how she was able to pick up her kid in 15 minutes once the threats got real. Exactly. And she doesn't even care enough about her son's involvement in the next party to just give a decent apology and ask for another chance. She jumps straight to insults and blocking. Not Dayhal. You gave her the honest reason based on experience. Instead of saying, "You're right, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to have my child punished for my behavior, so could you please give him/me another chance?" And she responded with profanity and blocked you. That's a good way to ensure the poor kid will never be invited again. And no doubt other parents feel the same way. Not Dayhal. It sucks that her kid has to pay the price, but picking up your kid 5 hours after the agreed upon time is BS. She was 100% using you as a babysitter and was enjoying her day minus James. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's blaming her daughter too much for her ex's actions?" My sister has a daughter, 15, with her ex-husband. When she was pregnant with him, her ex turned out to be a not very kind person. All the kindness and understanding we had seen before was gone, and by the time my niece was born, she was done. They had reached the point of no return. When my niece was 4, she met her husband. Her ex was pissed, forbade my sister from having her husband around my niece, even took her to court to say he wasn't allowed to interact with his daughter. The court laughed it off, of course, but her ex was very quick to be loud about how my brother-in-law was nothing to my niece, and how he would never be anything to her. My sister brought it to court, but nothing happened, and they went about life as normal, sharing equal custody of my niece and living life. She has 3 more kids with brother-in-law, ages 9, 7, and 4. My niece is very quick to correct anyone who calls them her siblings, and adds in the half or says they're not her real siblings. My sister has corrected her, has punished her, and has told her that half is not a term they use. They're siblings and that's it. My niece does not agree, and in the 9 years of having a younger sibling, she's never said just sibling. She has almost no relationship with her younger siblings. And my sister is pissed. Like, she has told us she is ashamed of niece and is disgusted with her. She has told her she is ashamed and disgusted, and will come back to us even more angry because that doesn't change how my niece feels or acts. She told me and our brother the other day that she's disgusted by her daughter, and she can't stand who she is, and she's thinking of locking her up all summer to get through to her. I told her she's blaming my niece too much when she knows it's coming from her ex. That she should try to understand better that my niece is caught between what she says and what her dad says. And while we all think is an a-hole, she thinks the world of her dad, and she would defend him with her dying breath and is going to be caught up in what she said. I said it doesn't matter her being mean, right? But that anger needs to go toward her ex for this, and not the kid who is stuck in the middle. My brother backed me up and said that at the end of the day, niece didn't ask for any of this, and is still growing and learning. My sister was pissed though. She said, "How dare I say she's being too hard when she can't just think of niece? And how dare I think she's not mad at her ex?" She tore both of us down for it and told us we were unsupportive, judgmental a-holes. She's still mad with a capital M. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You said it perfectly. All sister is going to succeed in doing is alienating her daughter. At the age of 15, she can decide she wants to live with her dad, and most judges will side with her, especially if she explains that mom is punishing her for calling mom and stepdad's kids her half-siblings, and that she plans to lock her up for the summer until she sees it mom's way. I feel so sorry for the daughter. I've had friends who've been stuck in custody battles, and it's a pain. Hope you're not the a-hole. Honestly, that entire sister's family seems like a crap hole for the daughter. Sister's going to lose her kid if she doesn't immediately turn her mindset around and support her. With kids, the carrot works better than the stick. Who knows, maybe being nicer about it and having her feel comfortable in that home will eventually make the daughter call her half-siblings siblings. If she doesn't, who cares? Positive reinforcement is the way to go here. It repairs the relationship and has a chance to make her do what sister wants. However, never use this positive reinforcement to try and push daughter to do what sister wants. If she doesn't want to, no point in trying to make her change her mind. Not a a-hole. At all. What you said is right. And someday, niece may come to understand she has been under the influence of her dad. But your sister can't force her to acknowledge her siblings. Yep, and what her mom is currently doing / planning to do will make sure she'll have essentially no good parent figures in her life. I am sad for the girl. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my son's parents from my house and refusing to let them see him? My ex from high school got pregnant and had my son. Biologically, he's not mine, but I always considered him my own. I was already at another college, 18 years old at the time, hours away, so she didn't tell me about him until he was almost 7 months old. We got back together and I raised him as my own. Was I stupid for not thinking about a paternity test? Maybe. But I still consider that one of the greatest blessings in disguise despite all the hurt. So fast forward 80 years later, I find out my ex has been cheating on me and broke up with her. She tells me my son's not mine and it's been this other guy. We had a paternity test that proved it was true and it crushed me. I was refusing to get back together with her or let her move back into my apartment, so she kept my son away from me. I didn't have that kind of money to fight it in court. And she started bringing the other guy around to see my son. They got him on the birth certificate and it was just a whole mess. They got married a year later and moved away. My family convinced me to let it go and accept that my son has his new family, so stop putting myself through this heartache. Eventually I did, and I always hoped I'd see him again, and thank God I did. More like he looked for me. My son is barely 19 and we've reconnected again. My son at first admitted he's been mad at me because he thinks my ex and I broke up, then I decided to stay out of his life. He knows who his biological father is. They're still married. But he was told that we decided to go our separate ways. As in, I made that choice. I told him the entire truth, and that's caused him to move out of their place. For the last couple months, he's been staying here because his other family is just pushing him to talk to his parents, and he wants space away from all that. Where I might be the a-hole. They found out he's staying with me and have come to my place. The last time they came, I shut the door on them and told them to get out because he doesn't want to see them. I'll admit I'm angry for what they did to me too, but also for the lies they told him. Her family, plus them, believe in being an a-hole for kicking them out of my home when they are only trying to see their son, and also for not helping to mend things as it's in his best interest. I've been mostly reacting out of emotion and my son's wishes, especially when I kicked them out, so that's why I'm not sure if I was an a-hole here or not. Not an a-hole. She took your son away from you. Yes, it's your son. You raised him and you loved him. You were a true parent, and I'm glad you were connected. They don't get to come to your house and ask for anything. Your son isn't comfortable being around them, so be it. Their adult child asks for space and time. They are willing to give him neither. Hope he's not a-hole for sure. Well, they didn't do what was best for an almost 9-year-old. Why would they suddenly do what's best for him now? How are you the a-hole for kicking adults out of your house when they were trying to see another adult? You're not withholding a child from his parents. Not the a-hole. I guess because they're trying to make things right with him, and maybe not thinking in his best interest the way I should be. That's why I just wanted to check in with others. He's old enough to know what he wants, and he can reach out to them at any time. Keep them away from him. That's why he left. Am I the a-hole for making my brother's family homeless? Especially because he has a small child and a soon-to-be-born baby? Okay, so my sister-in-law and brother will be staying at mine and my wife's house for a few months as they are both out of jobs. And sister-in-law is 7 months pregnant. They also have a 6-year-old child, and our house was enough to accommodate all of us. The problem is that my sister-in-law is a not-so-nice person. It is the type who says she's brutally honest, and that if she sees something that doesn't please her, she will make sure everyone knows. I didn't know the extent of it until now when she started to torment my wife. My wife is a very sensitive person. It is also unable to have kids, not because she's infertile, but because the birthing process can prove to be extremely dangerous for her. My sister-in-law found out about it and has made it her life mission to remind my wife how joyful motherhood is, and that giving birth is something that completes every woman, and that every pregnancy is a danger but a risk worth taking. Let me remind you, my wife's mother has died at childbirth, and her aunt has had multiple miscarriages. My wife has asked her to stop, but she says that she is also a resident at our home, and while she is here, she can do what she wants. I've also asked her to not to bother my wife about it, but she won't listen to reason, although she toned it down after my brother asked her. A few days ago, I had come home early from work only to find out that my sister-in-law had held an intervention for my wife with all her mother friends to encourage her to get pregnant. My wife had locked herself in our room and had been crying. I saw red and immediately called my brother and told him I wanted his family out of my house by 10 tonight, and went ahead and packed their stuff around the house myself. I didn't talk to my sister-in-law while she screamed at me, and I just gave her son noise-canceling headphones and left him in the corner room. Brother begged me to let them stay as his part-time job was not paying enough to support all three of them, plus the new baby. I told him that I had given sister-in-law many chances, and that my wife will not be disrespected in her own home. They left, and I have found out that they are currently homeless and can barely afford to get a motel for a night. My mother is on my side, but has told me to think about my nephew, who is also suffering a lot as he can't even attend online school. After knowing all this, both me and my wife feel a little guilty as the child was blameless, and the soon-to-be-born one will also have to suffer. So am I the a-hole for making my nephew suffer and problem cause him trauma? I am not at all regretful for kicking my sister-in-law out, but I am worried about my nephew as he has anxiety as well. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You'd majorly be the a-hole if you allowed your horrible sister-in-law in the house and let her most definitely harass and bully your wife. Protecting your wife comes first. Sister-in-law should have thought of that before she acted so horrible. You gave her so many chances. It's her fault they are now in a mess. If Opie is willing, they could offer brother and the child a place to stay. But sister-in-law can go live with one of the women who staged an intervention to coerce a woman to have a child. But only if Mrs. Opie is okay with it. But Opie and wife are not the a-holes. Sister-in-law made them homeless. She was an a-hole to the people that were nice enough to let her family stay for free. She's one of those people who thinks that everything should go her way and just her opinion matters. Being brutally honest is just another word for a-hole or boy. Not the a-hole. Your mom can house your nephew. Your brother must find a better job and provide for his family. Or they can go live with that lovely mother-in-law of his that thinks that a woman is only complete if she is a mother. She can act like one. Why just him? It seems like the wife has nothing better to do with her time than antagonize people gracious enough to welcome them into their home. Not the a-hole. Take in the kid if you want, or mom can take him in. But your sister-in-law was way out of line here. Kudos on not strangling her, honestly. Bluntly, your sister-in-law was encouraging your wife to do some things she knew would be dangerous to her. Your sister-in-law is fine leaving you a widower, so long as your wife is part of her fruity little club. Your wife's mental health must be prioritized, especially after this incident. And unfortunately, your nephew got caught in the crossfire. But remember, all your sister-in-law had to do to not have this happen was knock off her BS. She technically told your wife to end herself, Opie. That's so unacceptable I don't think I have to say anything more. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my half-brother he's not my daughter's father or mine? My half-brother is 19. I'm 26. We share a dad but not a mom. Right after my mom died, Dad had a one-night stand with a woman who is now his wife. My half-brother was the result of that one-night stand, and 2 years later they were not only together, but happily married. They now have 5 kids together, including my half-brother. One thing she and I have in common is the loss of our moms at a very young age. Stepmom was 9, and I had just turned 7 when our respective moms died. So she knew what it was like and she never tried to be my mom. She didn't even try to fill that role for me. She resented her own stepmother for doing it, so we had a very, very casual relationship. I appreciate her so much for that. She also was quick to remind my dad she wasn't my mom when he would call her that to me. I think she knew the best way for me to accept the change, and especially half-siblings, would be to never make me feel like she was replacing or taking over where my mom once was. Here's the thing. I had my daughter 16 weeks ago, and I named her after my mom and my husband's mom. Cool. Dad started to say something, but his wife cut him off. But then my half-brother, the oldest of their kids, has been on my case about it. He told me I was rude. He told me that I should have used his mom's name, because she's been my mom longer than my birth mom was, and all this other crap. I told him to knock it off. His mom told him to knock it off. But then he came for me even harder, and told me to change her name and show respect and love to his mom, or else. I told him he's not my daughter's father or mine, so he has no business telling me what to do or deciding what my daughter's name should be. He is pissy, but I'm ignoring him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You can name your child after whoever the hell you want. The fact that your stepmother seems to also understand this should also give you further comfort in your decision. Your half-brother needs to stay in his lane. That's what's so annoying about it. He's probably even hurting his mother by implying she should have accepted her own stepmother more. Dude needs to step off and save his mother's name for his own future kid should he want that. Not the a-hole. Why do people think naming babies is a committee decision? Not the a-hole. People like this are dumb. Stand your ground. Every time I see these kinds of posts, I can't believe the entitlement of some people. Bunch of clowns. Tell them to push a kid out of their uterus and they can name it whatever the hell they please. Not the a-hole. But I suspect he's getting the attitude from your father. Even if your father has a little more wit about him, it is keeping his mouth shut. For now. But I wouldn't be surprised if your brother, and maybe your father, started using your stepmom's name, the middle name, instead of your mother's name. So just be prepared for that and have a plan for dealing with it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my stepmother after my dad died? I, 24 female, have two half-siblings, Millie, 32 female, and Tom, 35 male. My parents had an affair. My mom met him on a business trip and he didn't tell her he was actually married with kids, until she found out she was pregnant with me. I only really spoke to him twice a year through a 5-minute phone call, and my mom raised me totally by herself. But when I was 15, I lost her. My dad's wife knew about the affair, and basically stuck with him anyway because my dad was very, very rich, as in had 4 houses in posh parts of London/Surrey rich. And I was out of sight for the first 15 years of my life. When my mom died, I went to live with them and she made my life hell. She'd make horrible remarks about my appearance, called me bouts of depression because of my loss, attention-seeking. She made sure I was never really alone with my dad, and I was shipped off to boarding school. I was never invited back for Christmas, and I spent most of the summer holidays at a village my boarding school was closest to. It was incredibly lonely, and my dad didn't ever seem to care much about me either. When I got to uni, both of them refused to help me out financially even though they did the same for my siblings. I got through uni by working during the academic year, and throughout the holidays. Nobody apart from Tom bothered to show up at my graduation, and he's the only sibling I'm close to. Anyway, about 2 months ago, my dad very suddenly died of a heart attack. Not only was I not invited to the funeral, but Tom told me after while my stepmother was doing her speech, she only mentioned my dad having 2 kids, Millie and Tom. Tom was fuming at her, but she waved it off saying if she'd have mentioned me, she'd have ruined my dad's reputation. A week later, my dad's lawyers told me that my dad had secretly left me shares, some money he'd saved in the life insurance payout he set up when I was born. He left a letter apologizing for being so emotionally distant, that he wished he'd appreciate me more and that he knew the money was never going to replace how lonely I'd felt, but he was hoping it would guarantee me some kind of stability. I've taken the money, and I'm planning on immigrating soon just so I could be on my own and get on with my life. And here's where I'm the a-hole. My stepmother never bothered telling me my dad died or anything, but earlier this week, she texted asking if I wanted to have lunch with her because she wanted to talk to me about my dad's will. I texted back saying, "You never made an effort to make me part of the family, and let's be honest, you never will. I never want anything to do with you again, and please don't come running to me about your problems because you're nothing to me." Tom told me she was sobbing at how it was unfair and didn't want to give her a chance. And Millie sent me a text saying I was an a-hole because I was taking advantage of how fragile my stepmother was. Tom's siding with me quietly, but I'm wondering if I've been too harsh to her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If there is something in the will to discuss, then get a copy and work it through the attorney only. There's no need to give this woman a moment of your time. She most likely will be trying to get something from you. Work strictly through the attorney, get everything you were bequeathed, and move on. I actually had a talk with his lawyers because I was worried that if she somehow found out, she'd try and get something out of me. Apparently, when my dad got diagnosed with a heart condition, he told them to make sure this will to me was totally airtight from a legal point of view, and that there wasn't anything massive for me to will, just that I owned a small share of the houses he left, which to be honest I'm not interested in anyway. She probably wants to sell 1 or 2 of those houses would be my guess, and doesn't want to pay you your share. I would make sure you get what you're owed. I'm sorry, this situation is so sucky. Don't engage with her though, stick to your guns. Oh, that would explain it, I guess. I've blocked her from my phone, and I'm getting a new number soon anyway, thankfully. Not today, home. She's not your stepmother. She was your father's wife. There is a big difference. You have the information from his will, so you don't need anything else. Grieve for the father you lost and the dad you deserved but never got. My condolences to you for your loss. Thank you. I feel very meh about it, to be honest. It's like hearing about the death of a distant relative you barely knew. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying my biological mother's medical bill? Here's a little backstory. My mother was baby-trapped into having me by my father, who was very abusive towards her in many hurtful ways. When my mother had the courage to end the relationship, I was around 2 months old. My mother had a strong hatred towards me, most likely because I was her tormentor's baby. She would verbally and mentally mistreat me growing up, and she would take her anger out on me. Not to mention she was a substance user and a strong alcoholic. She is to blame for my traumatic childhood experiences. My mother would always threaten to abandon me, adopt me out, sell me, etc., etc. And when I was 9 years old, she adopted me out, and I had not spoken to her since then. Luckily, when I was 11 years old, my family adopted me. I had lost all contact with my mother and had immigrated out of America and moved to England. There, I had a lovely teenhood and went to therapy to later recover from my past trauma. I went to university to study business, and I earned good money for a 24-year-old. Then my adoptive parents came to talk to me, saying how my mother wants to get to know me and that they had given her my number. I obviously said I wasn't interested because I didn't even know if I had forgiven her. But a few weeks later, I had received a call from someone in relation of my mother, saying how she has some sort of heart disease and wants to meet me and apologize. After loads of consideration and talks with my family and therapist, I decided to fly out to America and meet her. I arrived at a hospital she was at, and I didn't even know what to say. Someone who I assume is her boyfriend explained to me how she has had heart failure for the past 3 years, and how she has received a heart transplant. The only problem is that they couldn't afford it, and along with her medical bill. Long story short, he asked if I could help pay for it, and how he will pay half of it back after the surgery. I just broke down crying and started screaming and shouting at them out of anger. This resulted in an argument with Amanda and I, and both of us being escorted out of the building. I simply just couldn't believe how they lied to me, saying how she wanted to apologize to me, when she refused to even look or say hi to me. I was so angry that I wasted my money to fly out to America just to be told they needed my money, and how they would only pay half of it back. They didn't even have the courtesy to tell she has heart failure until she had gotten the opportunity to have a heart transplant. Some people are calling me an a-hole because she is my biological mother, and how I should forgive her and stop being as stubborn as I can afford to pay for it, and either way I'll get some money back. Whereas others agree with me and thinks someone else better than her should deserve the heart transplant and think I shouldn't pay for it. Not the a-hole. You owe them nothing. And you don't owe forgiveness to your biological mother who helped trick you into crossing an ocean during a pandemic, just to manipulate you out of money. Cut them all off. Tell your adoptive parents what happened and ask them to never give out your contact information again. She literally threw her kid away at 9 years old. Screw anyone saying to just get over it. I would like to add that biology has little to do with who should be considered family. Family loves and supports one another. When did a biological mother do that? Opie deserved better during childhood. That woman needs to be reminded that she does not deserve the title of mother when she's only concerned about her own self-interests. They misled you to get you to travel a very long ways. You weren't even there when they decided to take on these medical bills, so you have no obligation to pay them. And if you do, I wouldn't count on being paid back. I hope you can make the most of the trip and visit friends and new places. She is a giant a-hole. She didn't raise you, didn't properly care for you, and didn't show you love. You owe her nothing. Block her number and any other number she or her boyfriend call you from. Do not give it another thought. I'm sorry for the pain she has caused you. I'm so glad you have a therapist and a good family to help you through this. Not the a-hole. Just because she was mistreated didn't mean she could inflict it on you. There's literally no justification. She of all people knew how it felt. And worse still, you were a child. She walked into her relationship as an adult. Once she adopted you out, she ceased being your mother legally. There is nothing you owe her. Any friend saying you should pay has to mind their own business and doesn't even understand 1% of the horror you went through. Surround yourself with people who love and support you, and cut out the negative. Close this chapter. Change your number. Speak more to your therapist. Am I the a-hole for kicking my husband's sister out for leaving a fake pregnancy test in my bedroom? My 33 husband, Adam 36, came back from his month-long trip days ago. My in-laws live states away, and my sister-in-law 20 was staying with me since she got kicked out of her dorm. Adam and I got back from the airport at 7 p.m. and my family came to visit. Adam went inside a bedroom and started unpacking while I was in the kitchen with my mother. I suddenly heard Adam shouting my name. He told me to come upstairs ASAP. He sounded very angry. I went to meet him in the bedroom, and I saw him holding a positive pregnancy test in his hand. I was dumbfounded. He began questioning me, saying he found it inside my sock drawer. He asked, "You gonna explain to me what the hell this was doing there?" I was speechless from my shock as I understood what this might have looked like to him. I said I had no idea. It wasn't mine, and I'd never seen it before. He kept telling me to explain how it got there if I'd never seen it, and it wasn't mine. My family heard a commotion and tried to intervene, but Adam locked the door. I freaked out because I literally had no idea what was going on. Adam said he just wanted me to be honest. I said he had a right to be mad, but I knew nothing about it and had no explanation. He said mad doesn't even begin to cover it. Then suddenly started putting everything back in his bag, saying he was going to stay with a friend till I call him up with an explanation. He unlocked the door and found my family waiting. His sister showed up asking what was going on, then started laughing, asking, "So, was it really positive or not?" I was stunned as she proceeded to say she planted a pregnancy test in the drawer as a prank, and that everyone should come down. She was like, "Bruh, chill. Have you ever heard of fake pregnancy tests? They're pretty telling." I was livid. I screamed at her, asking how she thought this was funny and that it was okay to humiliate me in front of my family. She tried to justify it by saying it was her boyfriend's, who has ASPD by the way, idea to bring laughter to the atmosphere. But I told her she was no longer welcome in my home after what she did. Adam took a seat to calm down, watching us argue as my mom got involved, asking me to take it easy. I insisted that my sister-in-law pack and leave right then, and she started crying and apologizing, saying she had nowhere to go, begging Adam to do something, but he didn't. I called her an Uber and had her leave. Mother-in-law heard and started calling me, shaming me for kicking her daughter out like that. I told her what her daughter did, and she still said my reaction was over the top, as her daughter is being naive and is a kid acting recklessly. She said we're her family and I should consider taking her back, but I said I won't. Edit. I too was confused by Adam's reaction, and I have a feeling he was in on the prank too, based on how serious it was being. Mom thought the same thing, and I wouldn't be surprised since A, he remained quiet when I argued with his sister, and B, he always does pranks with her and sees nothing wrong with her behavior. He actually thinks she's funny. I don't know if I'll ever be sure about him taking part in her prank. Edit 2. Adam and I struggle with infertility on his side because of his health issues, so that added to my anger since it seemed like his sister was being cruel and insensitive. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Also kicked out of her dorm room. Pretty much leads me to believe sister-in-law isn't house-trained at all. To be frank, she didn't disclose the reason why they got her kicked out of dorm, but she said it wasn't their fault. With people like this, it's never their fault. Not a-hole. Whoever would even think for a second that was funny? I don't know, but my in-laws, including Adam, see no issue with how my sister-in-law behaves. Moreover, they think her mentally unstable boyfriend has an influence on her character. Not a-hole. Frankly, the only a-holes here are your husband and your sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law for the distasteful prank and your husband for not giving you the benefit of doubt. I would have told your husband to stay somewhere else for the night and to think about who he thinks he married. Not a-hole. Bruh, it can't with people in these comments. They struggle with infertility from his side, so is naturally probably a little insecure. Plus, he found an effing pregnancy test when he was gone for a month. Of course, the natural thought in that moment was that she was sleeping with other men in his bed. Literally anyone would have shouted. And with closing the door a bit, he never stopped her from going outside. He locked the door because he doesn't want unnecessary people interfering in their very, very personal business. Is this so hard to understand? Or we see a man and automatically assume that he's an abuser. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not including my wife on a family trip? I, 44 male, am the only boy of my family. My sisters are 46, 42, and 39 respectively. My wife is 39, and we just got married about 6 years ago. We have one daughter aged 4 and a son aged 3. My parents are both in their 70s. Sadly, we recently found out that my father doesn't have much time left. My sisters and I all spent our formative years in a northern Midwestern state, but my father received a job offer on the East Coast when I was 11 years old, so we moved there and we've all lived in that general area since. When we received bad news about our father's prognosis, my parents decided that we should take a family trip to our old state to visit old family gravesites, old family homesteads, cousins, etc. It just seemed like something that was very important to our parents. I thought that this seemed like a very worthwhile trip. Somehow, though, it got decided that this trip should include just the siblings and grandchildren, which seemed to me as bizarre. My older sister never got married or had kids, and I don't think she had any say in this. I think it was my 2 younger sisters, both of whom are struggling in their marriages and are on the verge of divorcing their husbands, who decided this. I argued back and forth with them that spouses should be included in this trip, but I was outvoted. I think both of my parents would have been happy to include our spouses, but they were just going to go along with the majority decision because it is most important to them to have their kids and grandkids there. When I told my wife about this, she became very upset. She said that if for no reason, as the mother of the 2 children I would be bringing along, that she should be included so that she didn't have to be away from her kids. I told her that I absolutely agreed, and that I stood up for her, but that I was outvoted. She then told me that I should take a stand and refuse to go on this trip unless she's included. But I told her that the trip was too important for me to dig my heels in and miss for any reason, so that I would be going, even if in protest. She, let's just say, was not happy with me. I understand my wife is upset, but I don't think it's fair for her to force me to make this choice. Am I the a-hole? Just got married 6 years ago. 6 years is more than just. I wonder if it's because it feels like they got married a little later in life. Like if they're 39 and 44, people could think they've been married 15 years and wanted to clarify. It's still weird phrasing, but that's what I jumped to. I'm from a small town, and most people there get married in their early 20s, which may be why I jumped to that. I wonder why the sisters are on the brink of divorce, selfishly making demands forgetting what the trip is about. Just say, sorry, the wife is coming, and go on the trip. What are they going to do? Exactly. Who are they to decide anyway? If I were him, I would do this. You're the a-hole. Look, not going is not an option, I get it. But take your wife. What are your sisters going to do? Ignore them. Be a man and stand up for your wife. Honestly, what are your sisters going to do? Leave? That's their problem. This is a tacit statement that while her children are part of the family, your wife isn't. Be a man. Not today home. Crazy how no one says anything about the wife giving him the damn ultimatum. Like, don't go on the last trip with your dad? The trip is for the father and his children. If he agreed to only having the grandchildren and children, only then your wife is allowed to be upset. But to force you to choose is too much. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for allowing my husband to harass my cousin? So, my 26 female husband, 30 male, has fun trolling people and getting under their skin online and WhatsApp, but is never rude in person, just in cyber world. It's just his personality. We have this cousin Chad and one cousin Samuel, 30 male, who's always been sensitive to my husband's antics. He did directly tell my husband he doesn't appreciate him making fun of his beliefs, politics, appearance for laughs, but my husband continued to do it, and Samuel eventually just took it and remained quiet. We were all at peace for about a year, and my husband continued to make jokes, but Samuel ignored it. My husband made another joke about Samuel when Samuel's wife, Aaliyah, 25 male, stepped in, saying she didn't appreciate us using her husband as punching bag, and everyone on the chat is rude for not stopping my husband. Aaliyah's always been a hothead. Someone offends somebody else, she always steps in and attacks. She doesn't let people fight their own battles, and it's annoying. So my cousins and I made a private chat talking about how Samuel is too sensitive and Aaliyah shouldn't be so crazy. Somehow Aaliyah found out about this and messaged me. Here is the part of messages which I want people's opinions. Aaliyah, your husband is rude, but you are worse. You always post messages on Facebook saying if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. Be kind, love first. But when me and my husband directly say your husband is offending us, you just say it's his personality. Me. It is just his personality. It's your fault you don't understand everyone's relationship. Everyone got along until you came. Aaliyah, what are you talking about? My husband has always disliked your husband. Me, well, he didn't say anything for a year. It means he's okay with it. It's just you. Aaliyah, not true, but okay, let's say it's just me. I'm offended by your husband. You think it's just his personality, right? I'm saying it's hurtful. You could have private messaged me and apologized, or at least asked if I was okay, if you cared about peace and kindness so much. Me, I have nothing to apologize for. My husband and I didn't do anything wrong. You just don't understand our dynamics and always try to pick a fight. It went on for a bit, but then Aaliyah eventually let it go. So Reddit, what do you think? Should I have reached out and apologized for my husband's behavior? My family is saying Aaliyah is just crazy and Samuel is just overly sensitive. Edit, Aaliyah doesn't just politely say stop. She throws disrespectful insults as well. You're the a-hole and your husband is an a-hole. 1. It's not his personality. It's him being an a-hole. 2. Samuel wasn't okay with it. He just realized that no one was on his side and decided to take it to keep the peace. 3. Aaliyah is right. Your husband is mean. 4. You owe both Aaliyah and Samuel an apology. I think she's an a-hole too. What nice person lets someone else be harassed and bullied and thinks, "Ow, that's a completely normal personality trait online from their bully." Let's not stick up for the victim, but continue to shower the bully with love and affection through marriage. You're the a-hole. No one but OP is not a nice person. Nice people don't advertise how nice they are. They demonstrate it with their behavior. Only complete a-holes feel the need to constantly talk about being nice. You are 100% correct, OP. It is your husband's personality, and he has the personality of a bully. And you have the personality of a total hypocrite. You're both a-holes, and so is your cousin group, with the exception of Samuel and Aaliyah. You and your husband both owe Samuel and Aaliyah sincere apologies. Not any of those passive BS, "I'm sorry you were hurt" apologies, but genuine, contrite, "I am sorry my actions hurt and offended you" apologies. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex-husband have my deceased daughter's ashes? I am an Indian woman who came to the United States on a student visa and met my ex-husband Dean. My family wasn't happy about the relationship, but eventually relented when they realized we were serious about each other. I got pregnant a few months into our marriage and gave birth to our daughter, Asha. After I gave birth, I developed PPD, and as a result, our marriage suffered and never really recovered. I was on antidepressants. 2 years after her birth, my ex-husband got close to his co-worker, Laura, and they began a 2-year torrid affair. When eventually got caught, he apologized for hurting my feelings but claimed he was in love with Laura. We divorced, and I was left in the US all alone without any emotional or family support. The divorce happened in 2017, and we shared 50-50 custody of Asha. In February 2020, I decided to visit my family in India as my extended family had never met my daughter. The original plan was to stay in India for 3 months, but the plans changed as the world got locked down. One day, my daughter complained of uneasiness and stomach pain after she had her usual lunch. I gave her a digestive enzyme and asked her to rest. When I went to check in on her an hour later, she was gone. I still don't know what happened that day, but after that moment, everything was a blur. My sister informed my ex-husband, but because borders were shut, he couldn't come to India for the rituals. I cremated my girl according to Hindu rituals and later immersed her ashes in the Ganges as per our customs. I have refused to take any calls from ex in the past 1 year as I am still dealing with grief. My ex has reached out to me and wants my address to get some of her ashes. I let my sister convey to him that the ashes have been disposed of as per customs. He is now furious and wants me to come back to the United States and give him some of her toys. I have planned on never going back. He already has some of her clothes and toys, and I refuse to directly talk to him. That part of my life is over and done. Am I the a-hole? To answer a few questions. 1. We were told she suffered a cardiac arrest. She was already dead when she was brought to the nearest hospital. My ex was sent all the details of the hospital documents. 2. He and his family were sent the Zoom link for the funeral. 3. He already has half of her belongings. 4. I didn't keep her ashes. It was disposed of the day after the cremation in the Ganges as per Hindu religious beliefs. 5. He was informed of all the rituals that were going to take place beforehand. He probably didn't understand them. 6. No, I wasn't in contact with him. My family was. 7. The reason he had no problem with me taking Asha to India was because in 2019, he took her to Russia to meet his grandparents. 8. When we left for India, it was early February, and we didn't realize COVID was going to be a global pandemic. 9. My ex's heritage is Russian Jewish. He didn't follow his religion when we were married, and I raised her Hindu. Now for the comments before reading the little update. You are dealing with a lot, and I don't think this sub is the place for you right now. That said, you ask, and you're the a-hole. I understand you're grieving the loss of your daughter, but so is your ex. You say what happened to Asha on the day she got sick is a mystery to you, and you were there. Imagine how he feels that he saw his daughter off on what was supposed to be a 3-month vacation. Is then told she is dead, is then told her remains have been disposed of, and can't even get you to talk to him. If I were him, I would have suspect that Asha is still alive, and the whole thing is a ruse to cut her off from him. Please consider talking directly to him. It may not be as painful as you were anticipating. In fact, it may help you to grieve with the other one person who can understand how it feels to have lost your daughter. He might also suspect that Opie had a hand in her death. He's probably thinking all kinds of crazy things. You're the a-hole. He is her father. He was an active part of her life. You're being vindictive. His affair has nothing to do with him being a father and wanting to have a part of his daughter. I hope you can live with yourself for being so horrible to a grieving parent. You had no right to unilaterally decide what to do with her remains. Your customs don't override his. You should have given him half of the ashes. Update. I realize that people believe I'm the a-hole. I understand and accept judgment. I didn't ask for advice, and no, I'm not going to talk to him ever again. We are done. He can hate me. I don't care. Since he didn't get to be with her in her last days, I'll be sending him a pair of her shoes that she wore during her India visit. My family will contact him regarding the same. Me not talking to him personally is nothing out of the normal. Even when Asha was alive, I kept communication to what the court stipulated. No chit-chat, no weather talk. It was just business. We communicated via email. I have no reason to talk to him now. People can call this being vindictive. I call this my boundary.